Azure Striker Gunvolt. We meet again! See, this right here was my first ever review, a video I'm not proud of, but still look back at fondly for giving me a push in the right direction. It's a cute video if not completely outdated, but humble beginnings. Humble, oh so humble beginnings. That's in the past though, and the future is now. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the original Gunvolt in the style of a review one last time, because it's clear that I have an affection for the series. At the time of this video, I'm repping my daughter Joel as my Twitter profile. Please follow me at ZaffreRevo. Around this time, I've also been streaming the games. Please follow me on twitch.tv/ZaffreRevo. And on top of all of that, I take every moment I can to shill these games. I am a Gunvolt addict, and it's no spoiler or surprise that I'm in love with this game and the series that's currently growing. The question now is why? What do these games do to stick out amongst the ocean of incredible 2D platformers? You know, your Shovel Knights, Meat Boys, Donkey Kong Country games, so on, so forth. Why exactly does this one stand out? Not even being a Blue Boys original anymore, there's gotta be something here. And even I was curious, which brings us to the video at hand. So let's hop right into things. Sit back, relax, grab a snack, and lower your standards, because this is just a Gunvolt analysis by your overly optimistic boy, Zaffer. You can't see it. It's electric. Azure Striker Gunvolt is a 2D sorta run-and-gun platformer made by Inti Creates. They're an indie company made by former members of Capcom, most popularly known as the ones who made the 0 and ZX games, as well as 9 and 10. That means they were responsible for 03 and ZX Advent, two of objectively the best Mega Man games. I'm sorry if this is news to you, I don't make the rules, I call them like I sees them. Gunvolt, however, was the first game they both developed and published, making for a heck of a big step in the company. I struggle to remember how I found out about this game. I think it was Clement in one of his reviews. I couldn't find it, so take that as you will. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Regardless of how I found out about it, I was interested because this was during the Great Mega Man Drought. A game where I could only move on 2 planes while shooting robots and the like was perfectly fine in my book, and I was sold from concept alone. I was having withdrawals, okay? I need my fix. Apologies again for my awful citations, but I also tried to find an interview I read through a link on Twitter a while ago about the main ideas in regards to Gunvolt, and I failed, I couldn't find it. We're gonna just have to paraphrase, so bear with you boy. Inti Creates wanted to make a solid platformer, but not a typical one either. The main goals for Gunvolt were to make a game with its own playstyle while rewarding the player for getting good by looking cool. Because of this, they emphasized score the most, while including a tough platformer on its own. On top of all of this, they took the liberty to craft an entire new world with its own lore, rules, and cast of characters for us to hopefully fall for. Gunvolt was not only Inti's first project, but to this day, one of its most ambitious ones. In terms of its reception, people loved it. We've got Gunvolt stands up the wazoo, a sequel, a spin-off, an anime OVA starring a reimagining of the first moments of the original game, a re-release on the 3DS, Steam, and the Switch version, which I'm covering in this video, speedrunners that I'm totally not a part of. Gunvolt as a series is still fairly small, but has some beef to it nonetheless. It goes without saying, but the game was a success. Now we just have to go back to it after all this time playing the sequel and see if the game aged well enough and if they truly succeeded at what they were going for. With development history out of the way, let's finally get into the game. You gotta feel it. It's electric. To answer that title card, yeah, kinda. In all honesty though, not as great as I remembered it. This game starts off strong by throwing you into the action, which is really cool. You're basically sent to assassinate this universe's Hatsune Miku because her singing is used to mind control people called adepts. I'm sure I just got a big ol' what from a bunch of my viewers, but it'd be like that. I'm gonna try to make this as simple as possible, but this world is pretty much overrun by a giant company known as Sumeragi, and as it usually goes, they're corrupt. Their goal is to control all adepts, basically superhumans, so that they and normal humans can live together in peace. How they go about doing this is by using Vocaloid mind control like I stated earlier, much to the dismay of another group called Quill. They're a liberation group that's made to help adepts get out of the clutches of Sumeragi and allow peace through more, well, peaceful means. At least as peaceful as they can be, because for Gunvolt's mission at the start of the game, we gotta kill Miku. As soon as he reaches her though, he finds out that the singer isn't from a program like they thought, rather it's a little girl adept whose powers are the manifestation of that singer known as the Muse named Lumen, the girl being named Joel. Gunvolt's 100% not down with killing a little girl, but his boss Asimov insists that he has to go through the plan, as her being alive is too big of a risk and could compromise the whole mission. But the blue boy refuses and decides that if he and Quill can't agree, he'll just leave altogether and protect Joel on his own, and he does just that. Gunvolt takes Joel to his apartment where he can keep her safe and take care of her, while doing odd jobs for Quill so that he can still help out his team, take down Sumeragi, and make Joel happy by giving her freedom and the right to live. So, that was A lot of words, huh? Clearly I've got a pretty good grasp on what the heck things are all about now, but my first time through I had a miserable time getting the swing of things. I'm all good with getting tossed into the middle of the action to pique my interest, followed by an explanation later, but this game kinda overwhelms you with stuff going on in terminology, only to have the exposition dumped on you in quite the literal sense later. On top of that, when it's all said and done, the story doesn't go that extra mile needed to make for something that's actually engaging on its own. This means even when you do understand what the heck is happening, I'd say it's only on the same level as a good Mega Man story. Decent, but nothing mind-blowing or anything. There is, however, one saving grace to all this, and that lies with the characters. While none of them are that deep in any sense, they're some of the most entertaining bunch ever. Gunvolt is a badass with a heart of gold and is secretly a teddy bear. His teammates are pretty enjoyable in their own right for memorable dialogue and banter. And then there's Joel, who's my adorable little daughter, and if any of you were to ever wish any harm upon her, I'll find you, grab you by the throat, and so please, respect the grill. You don't get a lot of their characterization in the cutscenes, as those are reserved for the story, but you have a couple of other means. One of the most important ways is the in-stage dialogue, not unlike Kid Icarus Uprising. These hold a ton of characterization and development in terms of the actual plot, but you probably won't be catching any of this unless you speak fluent Japanese. This game is only voiced over in that language, which is fine and all, not to mention includes some excellent performances, but how the heck am I supposed to get all this info while playing the game? I'm too focused on the action to be reading up on this playful banter, which is a shame because looking over it in my footage, this is some good stuff. This game would have definitely benefited from an English dub at least, so I can hear all this while blasting my foes away. The second way to get more characterization, specifically between Gunvolt and Joel, are the conversations. These are for fun little moments between the two, and I'll be honest, if the story didn't make me care for the characters enough, this would have been the tipping point. I love these conversations. Gunvolt and Joel are so cute, and I love finding out more about the two. Would have loved to see more of these, maybe even featuring different characters, because again, this cast is cool. A great team dynamic and cute relationship between our main babies, but the icing on top, the villains. These guys, to put it bluntly, are freaking awesome. When you run into them, you have a small moment between Gunvolt and them, and every time it's the most incredible thing ever. These bosses have so much personality, all standing out from one another and having a gimmick, part and thanks to them being based off the 7 deadly sins. Really nice detail there. Not to mention, they have 2 designs, one for casual clothes and armor for their actual fighting. Love the effort here, and it only adds to the world and characters they've created. There's much more dialogue while you fight them as well that discuss their motives and whatnot, but again, you're gonna be missing out on all of that since the gameplay is the main attraction. With bosses like these, you just can't be reading that stuff. Lord knows we already suck at the game as is. So to sum it all up, the actual story is meh, but the characters are what carry it to the finish, and to be fair, they're the main focus anyway. Again, it's nothing crazy, but I'd say it's a pretty good starting point for the series and a great one for the genre that couldn't care less. There was a lot of effort, and that being said, I wish there was more information and lore to read up in the actual game rather than through outside information. What are you gonna do, skip the cutscenes? I mean, I guess that's an option, but like, no. Anyway, cutscenes aren't as prominent as it may seem, so why don't we go ahead and hop into the other side of the coin, the gameplay.
Ooh, it's shocking! It's electric!
I'm gonna say this now, for as much care and effort as the story had put into it, Gunvolt remains all about the gameplay. It's without a doubt the main reason you'll care for this game and what you'll be spending the most time on. You play Mega Man, you'll feel at home here. You run and you gun, you jump and you shoot. You can even dash and wall jump. Wow, where do the similarities stop? Actually, they stop right here. Because your main form of damage isn't by shooting. Rather, your gun can tag an enemy up to 3 times, then attack them with your flash field. The enemies don't have to be directly in the flash field to get damaged, they just have to be tagged and on to just barely off screen. The gauge at the bottom that shows up whenever you use your flash field is your EP meter, and it goes down whenever you, well, use your flash field. If it runs out, you gotta wait a bit, but that should never happen since you can instantly recharge it if you're on the ground with a double tap of the down button. Gunvolt also does this, yeah, pose whenever you do it. I don't know, I thought it was cute. The playstyle is strange, to say the least, until you realize how many more options this control method opens up. You can shoot an enemy, run past it, then bring the hurt when you're out of harm's way. Also, you're given 3 tags with your standard gun, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to use all 3 tags on that one enemy. Tag, he's it, tag, she's it, whoops, they're both freaking dead at the same time, but oh boy, extra points! The more you tag an enemy, the more damage you do, so you can take that into consideration when attacking a stronger enemy and a weaker one at the same time. I need to stop myself from rambling, but because of how different things are, that opens up a whole new world of strategies and maneuvers, making for a game that's a whole lot of fun on top of being unique. But what's the score we keep seeing? The number going up highlighted in blue and the extra points we get whenever GV does something fancy. This, my friends, is where the bulk of the fun comes in. Forget your Mega Mans, your Sonics, your non-existent sequels, Azure Striker Gunvolt makes you care about score. You get your basic numbers from defeating enemies and whatnot, whatever, but what you're gonna care about most is your kudos bonus. Every time you kill an enemy, the numbers rise, and when you fulfill certain requirements, you get bonus points. Beating an enemy with the full 3 tags, doing that same thing but in the air, beating 2 enemies at once, 3, maybe 4, not letting a boss enter its second phase, finishing off a fight with a special, ordering a pizza while murdering bad guys, making a sandwich while dashing through the stage under a certain amount of time, playing the game blindfolded, so on, so forth. Kick butt and look good doing it for those numbers to rise. If you get hit, you lose all of it. Actually, depending on which kudos setting you choose, you can get hit a couple of times, but if you want to chill with the big kids, you gotta play Fearless, and the game makes you feel so darn good doing it. Pass the 1000 points threshold and you'll get music playing from Lumen. Yeah, her being this universe's version of Hatsune Miku wasn't just a plot device, but you get to hear her music in-game as a reward for mastering the mechanics and getting good. There are a bunch of vocal tracks, and they all sound amazing and act as great motivators to keep going. Not to mention, they're by far the highlight of the entire OST. Keep racking up those points, keep jamming to Lumen's flippin' bops, and score that oh so satisfying S+. I know not everyone cares, but it's really hard not to with all this in mind. I never cared about score or a best time in anything other than Sonic, but much like that series, I'm encouraged so much to keep replaying the stages again and again, so that's exactly what I would do. Not only do you get the best music, you're also rewarded with more materials to create better armor and equipment. Plus, the game's just more fun to play whenever you get good at it. I realize that's an argument you can use pretty much everywhere, but Gunvolt's like hard, dude. Managing to get past everything with little to no scratches while the game is constantly hyping you up is a high very few games manage to reach. So even when I just want to play casually, the little nudge to keep trying again and again remains there. Heck, my second playthrough for footage was supposed to consist of me just breezing through the game, but I ended up replaying some levels more than once because I wanted to. It's so fun to get good at Gunvolt, and that's where a lot of this game's replay value is going to come from. It goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway, the developers succeeded at making a game that makes you want to get good and rewards you for doing just that, helping it stand out among the platforming crowd. That in mind, I'm happy to report that the mechanics work. Gunvolt controls great and responds to your input so quickly. He is fast, everything happens so fast. You can keep mashing the dash button to keep the higher speed going rather than having to jump at the tail end every single time. You wall jump quicker, shoot faster, kill faster. Everything was snappy and straight to the point, heightening my enjoyment even further. Playing this game feels so tight, and to be quite frank, going back to the X games through the Legacy Collection just feels wrong because of how clean this game plays. And on top of all this, you have a wide range of skills to use, from supportive tactics to help you in battle, and special attacks that deal a ton of damage and even have cool cut and art like the bosses. These are so satisfying to do, not to mention gives you extra points while helping you bank your kudos at the time. It also makes the game look more anime, and I mean, come on now, that's pretty amazing. It's too bad using them is incredibly uncomfortable since this was originally on the 3DS and you'd just be able to tap them. In the Switch version, get this, you have to push the right stick in one of the 4 directions, then push the stick button to use it. Why couldn't we just use the X button or something? It's so odd to use, but eventually you get used to it, I guess. Still incredibly awkward and unnecessary. The mechanics in general are a great way to incentivize getting better with tons of tools at your disposal. It's a great gameplay system. All that being said, I do think that there are some gameplay mechanics that should have been explained more, and not just through in-stage dialogue because nobody reads those while playing. I'm mostly referring to Pervasion when I say this. You're given a ring right from the start of the game that gives Gunvolt these really cool looking after images when playing, activating Pervasion. While this is on, you can't take any damage when hit by an enemy unless you're struck while using your flash field to attack or if you run out of VP. With this on, a lot of this game's challenge gets thrown right out of the window, and I understand why they did this. The game is supposed to be about the numbers, as even though you don't take damage when you're hitting Pervasion, you still lose those kudos points, which could hurt just as much, if not more. Still, there's a lot more challenge to be had if you turn Pervasion off by de-equipping the ring right at the beginning. You'll know it's all because the after images aren't there. That way, anytime you get hit, you take damage like a normal game and can still aim for those higher scores while having that challenge. This is my preferred way to play, and I like that Pervasion is a thing because you can put it on when going for higher scores since you won't care for dying anyway. However, I wish the game just asked you or something at the beginning if you wanted it on or not, or at least explain what it was outside of the end-stage dialogue, because to some, the game could seem too easy with this thing on and never know what it is since the game never bothers to explain it. It's a very abusable mechanic too, as you can attack a boss, stop attacking for a split second so you can take a hit with the sole consequence of losing your score, then lay the smack down on them again. It's a borderline easy mode. An interesting mechanic for sure, and I love keeping it on when I score attack because of how cool it looks. I just wish the game informed you more on how much challenges missed out with it on. Then there's the reincarnation mechanic. If you're having trouble and end up biting the dust, there's a chance you'll be revived by Lumen singing and enter OP mode. With With this, you can infinitely air dash, infinitely jump, have endless amounts of EP, meaning infinite pervasion, and a unique J-pop track to boot. However, in this mode, you can't earn any kudos points, so it balances itself out. Plus, you're not entirely invincible and can still die. It's a nice little addition and one that I can appreciate, but I don't like to use this for taking away a big chunk of bonus points that those higher rankings require, and I don't like getting my hand held in video games. If I'm gonna keep failing, let me get better. I'm not too big on the game giving you the extra nudge to get past challenges, I'd rather do them myself. So whenever I do get this, I end up listening to the music for just a little bit, then dying again so I can try the challenge again properly. I wish there was some way to turn this off, but alas, whenever it happens, you've just got to use it or get rid of it on your own, which can be annoying. Not to mention whether you get it or not is completely random, so you never know if it's even gonna happen. The conversations between Gunvolt and Joel raise the chance of this happening, making it an almost guaranteed occurrence, but still, I don't want it, so yeah. These last two additions to the gameplay are interesting because they help newcomers enter the action more smoothly, and to the game's credit, I really like that. But choice is important, and not making these features more prominent while letting experienced players know how to or even give them an option to get rid of them is a bummer. And even though they look cool, these aren't rewards for getting better at the game, they're handicaps, which goes against the game's mentality. Dope ideas, but they could use work. Just give me an on or off switch for reincarnation or something, and make it so that Pervasion has a switch for being able to be hurt or not, I don't know. The effects look cool, and I want them as another reward for breaking the 1000 kudos threshold or something, but I don't want it to come at the cost of a challenging platformer.
You gotta know it. It's electric. Woogie, woogie, woogie.
Even with all this in mind, the game still contains depth, so those who aren't inclined on getting the highest scores have something to look forward to. These levels, while linear, are completely unique from one another in both their environments and layout. There's not much to secrets for this game, but that's totally fine because I would just speedrun and score attack these anyway. Not to mention they remain engaging with enemy encounters and platforming challenges aplenty. I do wish the game eased up on enemy rushes though. There were a few too many here and the game liked these a little too much. Alright, just outran a freaking flood, now we have an enemy rush. Alright, okay, just gonna go right through here and we have yet another enemy rush, fellas. There's a door here, so what does that mean? Yup, an enemy rush, and nobody's surprised. Just gonna keep walking right here. What the heck, another one? Is this the right way? Oh, mother! The levels are great, I swear. The highlight though, these boss battles. So tightly designed and challenging, but also doable without taking a single hit when you're good enough. Much like the levels themselves, it's encouraged to learn these as well. Being able to react quick enough, strike when you have the chance, counterattack, and even finish them off with a special skill gets you a crap ton of points. For a first game, these are solid, but there's one I can't defend for the life of me, and no, it's not Elise. I actually think she's one of the better ones, along with being one of the hardest. Once you've got her number, that's all she wrote, and you should be able to take her down easily enough. No, my worst nightmare in this game is Red Guy. But Zafre, it says here his name's Viper. Nope, Red Guy, freaking Red Guy, and he sucks. No matter where you fight him, the arena is surrounded by lava, so that's fun. He's also got some of the hardest, fastest attacks to telegraph, meaning that if you don't react quick enough, whoops, that's a hit and that's my score. But the final nail in the coffin for his desperation attack, get this, it's a bullet hell. Hold on, let me pause this for a second. Look at this boy. Does he look made for a bullet hell? No? Well, someone thought so, and here we are. This sucks. This is a score killer, and only after playing this game for 5 years can I just barely manage to dodge it on occasion. Even still, it's a stupid design choice and probably the only aspect of the game I flat out loathe. Chalk this off as first game syndrome, but it's still a problem nonetheless.
You can't hold it. It's electric. Woogie, woogie, woogie.
Even with this though, the game's design mentality is still intact, and that's what's most important about these boss battles and the game as a whole. This game has style, but it's also got substance in its levels and bosses. Levels, while simple, still provide their own gimmicks to learn and master while remaining fun over the multiple times you'll play them. And the boss battles are iconic as heck if anything, on top of being competently made and challenging. This is the biggest strength of the game, a great platformer that challenges you and rewards you for perfecting your craft and answers the question of why this game sticks out to me as a great title. There is a lot more to this game, like the achievement system, which is a bit flawed for this first time around, and an in-depth weapon and equipment synthesis shop, but I don't want to spend too much time on stuff I don't care that much about. The developers and myself care way more about the story and gameplay, both of which range from decent to flat out awesome. While level design could have had more to it, and I wish some of the mechanics were more thought out in terms of giving the player options, I had a blast in every single playthrough with this game and never felt like I was doing this as a chore. On normal mode, don't play easy, it's a joke, and stay as far away as possible from hard mode because yeah, that. This game acted as a solid foundation for what games could potentially follow it. Cap it all off with dope as heck pixel art, a clean art style, and music with incredible J-pop, I love Azure Striker Gunvolt and can finally say I understand why. As stated earlier, the game got a sequel, and how did that improve on things? If at all? A lot of you already know the answer, but for those of you who don't, I'll be providing just that next time. Next week at the time of this video's release, but if you're from the future, you should be able to watch it right now. It's kind of cool. Consider this the first part of my indie marathon, as we've got a lot more indie titles to cover once we finish up Gunvolt's sequel. Anyway, this is the end of the analysis, and I'd like to thank you for watching the whole way through. It helps YouTube like me more so my channel can get promoted and grow, not to mention it just means a lot to me that you find me entertaining enough to stick around. If you liked what you saw and want to support the channel even further than a subscription, there are a couple ways to do so. First and foremost, I have a Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you get early access to videos, creator notes where I blog my thoughts on my video projects, a Patreon exclusive podcast, and access to my Discord server where you can talk to myself, other patrons, and viewers of the channel. I also have a Twitter that you can follow for fun interactions and whatnot, and I stream on Twitch. Hop on over to my channel where we'll play fun games, sometimes together, and just have a blast. Any way you support the channel is greatly appreciated, with a special shout out to my patrons, which I'll proceed to thank right now. Thank you so much to Ben, Cleric Eric, Comic Foil, Corbett, Flawregrar, ForeverFizz8, Gaius, Gentleman Gamer, Jacob Horner, James V, Kimpy7, Michael Douglas, Mitchie, Neolab, Shadow the Cat, Tex-Mex, and Xenolith. I love you all, and I love you, the viewer, for giving me a look. Thank you one last time, I swear, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye!